the time that we get to this point in the year, I'm starting to stare down the barrel of the count. And I'm not talking about counting down the time to the jolly fat man. No, I am instead talking about the time of the year where I grab a notebook and chaotically ricochet around my library, counting all of my books. Hardbacks, paperbacks, read, unread, read multiple times and is falling apart, should have read 3 years ago, really should have unhauled and don't know why it's still here. And I need you to know that since I started this 2 years ago, every fibre of my being resists this process. So I put fun barriers up to make it harder for me to get there if it wasn't bad enough in the first place. And one of those barriers is the pile of unhauled books. Because in my head, while there were still books to tell you about, I couldn't count anything. Now I'm out of excuses, so I guess let's do this. Hi guys, it's Leanne and welcome back to another video. To the last book haul of 2024. Now I say that with a lot of confidence for somebody who is a book lover and who still has a festive celebration in front of her, but in reality very few people actually get me books at Christmas. Apart from a very small pool of possibilities, these are pretty much the last books that are going to make their way into my house by the end of the year. And it's time to tell you about them. But before I do that, it's time to tell you about today's sponsor, Serious Readers. I'm filming this video at 11:30 AM, but you wouldn't be able to tell it from the lighting because we have hit the darkness of winter. The clocks have gone backwards or forwards or whatever they do with an attempt to give us more daylight, but it didn't work. And that's where Serious Readers are coming through for you this winter season. Just look at the difference in this reading setup without Serious Readers and with Serious Readers. It's not a small difference, is it? If you've never heard of Serious Readers before, they are a small UK company who manufacture serious lights. As in seriously good for your eyeballs lights. Serious Readers have developed a technology called daylight wavelength technology, and that means that your eyes can't tell the difference between real, actual standard daylight, not winter daylight, because your eyes definitely know the difference with that, but like a nice spring day daylight, and their lamps. Which means no matter what, you're still going to be able to read the tiny text in that letter that's been included in page 233 of your book. You know, the replicated letter that publishers made inexplicably small for the sake of fitting it on the page. They've used calligraphy under the guise of aesthetics, and really all they're doing is making you feel like a mole in a hole. Serious Readers can fix this for you. And they can also help you find the drop stitches on your hat when you're sitting there at 2 AM with insomnia going, where did it go? Just trust me, your eyes need a pal this winter season, and that pal's gonna be Serious Readers. So if you would like to get your hands on a modern, chic, sleek, beautiful reading lamp, which the sun has clearly come out to help me tell you about, you can use my code Leanne24 here on the screen to get £100 off of a lamp from the Serious Lamps range and free UK delivery. Just in time to slip it under your tree. Oh, and talking about lamps, I've now put the nice decorative one on in the background. It does absolutely nothing for anybody to see by, but it looks nice, right? Righty-ho, daddy-o. It's time to finally process the pile. Because once I've processed this pile, I will have no excuse but to process the piles behind me, which consist mostly of books I've taken off my shelves and read, and some books that have been not so promptly returned to my lending library from friends this year. Genuinely, actually getting books on my shelf is my most loathed activity, especially when I know that some of the shelves that these books are going on are pretty full. So really any excuse to put it off is good with me. So first let's talk about the one book which isn't in my physical possession but is the last pre-order of the year, which will be making its way into my house around about summer this year. I want to say I read the Garlic duology of graphic novels from Brie Paulson and they were perfect. They were cottagecore, they were whimsy magic, they were found family, they were queer, just perfect. These were the perfect graphic novels for me, and I am delighted to say that this one looks exactly like the Garlic graphic novels. And normally that would be a bad thing. Normally I would be like, oh, do something different this time, favourite author that I love. But no, as far as I'm concerned, if Brie Paulson just keeps riffing off of the same ideas that were in the Garlic graphic novels, I'm golden, we're good, I will buy them all. So this one is about Ada. She is really concerned about her younger sister Safi's magical powers because they are developing at an alarming rate in a world which kind of frowns on them. They are living in a city which is powered by magic but is just recovering from really bloody horrible wars around who controls that magic, and from what I can see, who is allowed to have that magic. But Ada knows that she really has no choice. Safi can't be safe here, she has to be properly trained, they have to go somewhere and do something about it. Enter a group of travelling musicians who spot Safi's powers and think that she would be perfect for their troupe. But the last line of this blurb says that Ada should be concerned. She should be worried about monsters behind friendly faces. This one comes out mid-December and I think it might be one of the last books that I read this year, so that's super exciting. So the first one that I have to show you is a proof that I am so excited for. You guys might remember, if you've been around the channel for a little bit, that I am a complete devotee of the book Duck Feet. It is a coming of age story set in a town very close to me, written entirely in Scots dialect, and there's just something about it. There's a feeling that Duck Feet gave me, a magic about that book. And I sense that that magic may also be present in this one. This is Wee Pretty Pieces of Flesh by Caldwell Brown, and it comes out in February of next year. It is also a coming of age tale, but it is set in South Yorkshire. It's set in Doncaster and it's entirely written in South Yorkshire dialect. It's about a group of 3 friends who have really been together since they were tiny kids, and although they are all from very disparate backgrounds, the town that they grow up in very much forces them to have the same experience whether they like it or not. But as the girls get older, life starts to present them with some very different opportunities, and in the midst of all of this chaos and complicated female friendship, which is something you know that I absolutely adore in books, a catastrophe happens which creates a secret which the girls have to decide whether they're going to carry for the rest of their lives. And if they do carry that secret, is it going to bring them closer together than ever before, or is it going to fester between them and tear them apart? Next up, another book that I was so buzzing for that I picked it up the second that it came in the door. I'm buddy reading this with my lovely friend Sarah, and the two of us are absolutely feral for it, and I can't believe I've only mentioned it once in passing in a most anticipated video. That book is Didion and Babbitts by Lily Enolich. I would conservatively say I'm about 1/3 of the way through, and it's the only thing that I want to do. Well, actually that's a lie. I want to read this just as much as I want to knit my winter hat, but I can only do one at a time. So I feel like this one is case in point of the thing that I talked about in my last video, which is that some of you guys come to my channel for me and my glee about books, but not necessarily the books, because I own that this one is a bit of a niche offering, especially if you've come here for like thriller, horror and fantasy. But for those of you who don't know, I have been a lover of Joan Didion, who was a journalist and memoirist and novelist who wrote a lot about California in the 60s and 70s. And then of course we have Eve Babbitts, who very much was also an up-and-coming journalist and socialite and lots of other things at the same time as Joan Didion, but who had very disparate views. So this book is essentially a memoir of their frenemy relationship, told through a bunch of letters that Lily Enolich found after Eve Babbitts passed away. There is a sample of one of the letters on the back of this book, and it starts by saying, "Could you write what you write if you weren't so tiny, Joan?" To say that I am obsessed with this book is such an understatement. I waited for it for so long. So yeah, I know that this one is quite a niche one, but I think that it is one that a few of you might like to look into. Next up, I of course have volume 7 of Lore Olympus. And you know what? I'm sitting here saying that I don't think there's any other books to come into my house before the end of the year, but I don't actually know if there's another volume of this up for pre-order. Usually the second I've got the most recent one, I pre-order the next 2, which are already available, so I will need to go and have a look into that just in case I'm telling you a great big flaming fib. This is the artwork that you can expect to find in these graphic novels, because a few of you have been asking. In case you're new to my channel and you haven't heard about this one before, this is a Hades and Persephone retelling. We start off with Persephone, who is a nymph who has only ever lived a very sheltered life in the countryside with her mother and her fellow nymphs. And although she is meant to swear a vow of celibacy and give her entire life up to ministering for other people, before she does that she desperately wants to get out of the countryside, come to the city and get an education. That is exactly what she does, except the very first night in the city she goes out with one of her friends and she gets embroiled in a plot to unsettle and bring down Hades. Hades is still the god of the underworld in this one, and the underworld is, you guessed it, a big corporate organisation. And when Hades drives back there and discovers Persephone in his trunk, he's not exactly happy about it, but a strange friendship forms out of it. Lore Olympus is still a free webtoon that you can read entirely online if you want to. This collects volumes 153 to 179 and the webtoon is now finished, so you could read the entire story before these books ever come out. It's just that I hate reading comics online. So I'm going to continue to pick up these very heavy, not wrist friendly volumes instead. Next up, I have a completely random pick. I was out book shopping with friends and one of them shoved this right into my hand and was like, I have never seen a more you book. And to be fair, she was kind of right. This is Feast While You Can by Michaelia Clements and Onawila Data. This is a queer horror possession story and it kind of tells you it right up on the back. Normally possession stories are like, ooh, they walked into a creepy house and there were entities there and what happened? And you don't know that the possession is going to happen until it's happening, but no. This one is just like straight up, oh yeah, Angelica, she has a monster inside her. It is not a great one. The reason why this sounds so incredibly me is the first couple of sentences of the blurb, which I'm just going to read to you because they're perfect. All she wants is to walk her mongrel dog, hold court with her brother in their local dive bar and bait hot queer women to their sleepy conservative hometown. The problem is, so does the monster. It goes on to say that the monster has the ability to like rifle through Angelina's thoughts. It kind of knows what she wants and it almost gives it to her, but in a very twisted way. So realistically, what do you do if you have a monster inside you that is feasting on the fact that it is ruining your life? Oh well, only extreme measures will do, right? I'm really sad because I don't think I've got time for it before the end of the year, but again, a lot of this is going to end up teeing up to be my 2025 reads. So you're getting kind of a preview of the first month of the year. This haul has been kind of graphic novel heavy, I'm realising, and it usually isn't, but the next one that I have is Adulthood is a Gift by Sarah Anderson. You guys know that I am absolutely dedicated to a couple of different webcomics that I enjoy on Instagram and that I like to collect the physical volumes of them because they are such quick, like, happy boosts in my day. But I have never found a more accurate reflection of my life than in the Adulthood is a Myth series, the Sarah's Scribbles series. These are all 4-panel comics in black and white and I just love them. Big Happy Squishy Lump, which is volume 2 in this collection, actually made me ugly cry at one point in it because it felt so accurate to my life. I didn't even say what the theme of these were. I mean, the theme of these are really just kind of like living our daily life and how we manage that in today's landscape while also dealing with, you know, mental illness, chronic illness, anxiety, that kind of stuff. That's very much what you're going to find in these pages. I did not do a very good job of summarising because I was so excited. Next up, I have got the October Evernight offering, and that is An Academy for Liars by Alexis Henderson. And I will admit that this one has kind of made me think about cancelling my Evernight subscription. Evernight is a quarterly horror subscription and a couple of the offerings have been perfect. They have been right up my alley. I was so excited for them, but the rest of them I've kind of been lukewarm about, and this one I'm actively a bit, because this one to me is less a horror and more a dark academia with a dark romance in it, and that's just not what I'm signing up for. The book itself is absolutely stunning. It's beautiful, but there's just something about the choice of this book and the presentation of the artwork that just kind of says fairy loot romantasy to me, and I am sure that Alexis Henderson fans out there are absolutely cursing me. I hope that this book is absolutely everything that you want it to be. It just wasn't absolutely everything that I was hoping it was going to be. I've read the first 2 chapters and I can almost guarantee that I'm going to rate this like a 3 or less. So going into 2025, I need to have a good think about whether I want to continue with the Evernight subscription. I think I might give it one more selection and see what I think. So yeah, a little bit of yay, a little bit of meh. Next up, I have got another proof. This is a debut which is coming out in April of 2025, so a little bit to wait for it. But it came into my house before the end of the year, so the rules are you guys have to see it and I have to put it on a shelf. And that book is Fair Play by Louise Hagerty. This one is essentially a locked door thriller. It is about a pair of siblings. What are their names? Abigail and Benjamin, and they have been very close their entire lives. So Abigail decides that for the big birthday that Benjamin has coming up, she's going to do something off the charts for him. She hires a grand old mansion house, gathers all of their favourite friends and all of their favourite family and everybody that you know is connected with those. The partners and the maybe partners and the did you two hook up again? And she crams them all in to play a locked door murder mystery. But then after a night of cavorting and frivolity, everybody wakes up except for Benjamin. And Abigail realises that she's now literally stuck in a locked room murder mystery, except the murder has been that of her brother. Quite a few authors that I really like have also blurbed this one and are also excited for it, so that kind of kicks it back to the top of my pile. In terms of thrillers, because thrillers don't always end up at the top of the pile these days. Next I have 3 fantasies to show you, and 2 of them I have actually technically put in a TBR already, but I haven't shown you the book or really talked about it outside of being like, I'ma read these. So the first one that I have is Till Death Do Us Part, and it is a queer fantasy romance. Logan the Bear Seeker hung up his axe years ago because he wanted to settle down with his cute bard husband Pie, who isn't that much of a fan, you know, of being on the road hacking off limbs and travelling around from city to city hoping nobody's chasing you. And Logan has loved his life. He and Pie are very happy. But then one day Pie goes missing and Logan uncovers a plot to force Pie into blackmail to steal an extremely dangerous magical article and probably not come out the other end of it. And Logan is understandably a little bit pissed and sets out to find Pie and possibly reclaim his axe. I took this away at the start of the month with me to Arran with Harry to hopefully read it all curled up by the fire, but we ended up not being that comfortable in our accommodations for a bunch of different reasons, and we spent most of our time tromping about the island spotting birds. And also this was meant to be a casual buddy read with my patrons while I was away, but we had no internet the entire time that we were there. So I am behind and I need to pick this one up before the end of the month, which I only have a few more days left of, so I should probably get on that. The next one that I have was lovingly sent to me by Tor. Thank you guys so much. And it is The City in Glass. I have also popped this one on a recent TBR and it promptly fell off. So I would also like to try and knock this one off by the end of the year, especially because it's only a novella, but especially because it gives me Daughter of Smoke and Bone vibes whilst also being placed as a character. 2 of the things that are just like a ding ding ding, ring the dinner bell things for me. This one is about Vitrine and she loves the city that she lives in. She was there at the birth of it, she has helped to steward it through the years, and she is there at its fall when demons take over the city and start to break it apart. But Vitrine is not somebody who's going to stand back and not have a say in her surroundings, and so she very promptly starts to plot her revenge. But maybe she doesn't have to do it alone, because maybe one of the demons that attacked the city didn't actually want to do that either. And I love the representation of them on the cover as like 2 pillars surrounding the city, so I am very excited for this, and I'm very sad that I didn't get a chance to read it. And speaking of things that I am not having a chance to participate in, this is The Queen of Atolia. It is the 3rd book in the Thief series by Megan Whalen Turner, and I am absolutely failing in co-hosting the read along of this because I am now behind, massively behind. But I am going to continue buying and reading my way through these books even if I am extremely tardy in it, and even if I never make it to one live show. As I said, this is book 3, so I can't really tell you too much about it, but the series itself is about Gen, who is a young master thief who gets thrown in the king's dungeons for not really being able to keep his mouth shut and not tell people that he's a master thief, amongst other things. And he is offered his freedom if he agrees to go and steal something of extreme magical significance, but it will probably get him killed in the process. So faced between die in the dungeon or die outside the dungeon doing what he likes, Gen takes the obvious offer and we follow him on his quest. This is a great old series. There are a few little problematic pieces in it now, but it still has a huge nostalgia hit for me. And then finally, the last book in this stack is one that I have actually read, and it's not just a book that I have read once. I have read it multiple times and I rave about it because I absolutely love it. I think it's one of the best psychological true crime books that I've ever picked up. You guys know know how much I am devoted to that genre, so that's a pretty big claim. I originally listened to this book on audiobook. I got it in a deal at some point when it first came out, and I did not know how much it was going to like echo in my subconscious. Gwen Adshead is considered one of the leading forensic psychologists in the UK, and from very early on in her career she dealt with extreme offenders in places like Broadmoor in the UK, which is a very famous psychiatric prison, and each one of the chapters in this book follows her at a different point in her career with a different case entirely and what it taught her about the idea of radical compassion. Because unlike a lot of true crime books which look at serial killers through the lens of like diagnosing them and working out why they do the things that they do, Gwen's job is actually instead to offer counselling to these people, and she permanently walks this line between the idea that people who have committed these horrible offences are still people and are still entitled to counselling and to getting to know themselves better and to the idea of rehabilitation, even if release is never a thing that is imminent or possible for them. She explores a lot in this book, confronting your own biases, whilst also delivering that true crime thing of being able to look at some really strange and unusual crimes and kind of investigating the way that people got themselves into that situation to commit them in the first place. It's one of these books that I'm like, if I could give it more than 5 stars, I absolutely would, and it would definitely be in my like favourite books of all time list at this point. So that is it, guys. That is all of the things that have come into my house at the end of the year, barring maybe an unpre-ordered Lore Olympus that I'm going to go away and look into in a minute. Well, notice that I didn't do the count in this video. I usually do like a little counter in the corner for book hauls, and that is simply because at this point in the year for my bingo board numbers I am now dealing with like end of the year situation numbers, and I don't want to give anything away to you guys about how many books that I bought and how many books that I've read and whether I've hit my 60%. I want to keep that like a surprise, so you will find out hopefully by the end of December if those things have been achieved. So if you've got all the way through this video, leave me an emoji that represents the book that you most recently bought. Maybe it's a sword or a dragon if it's a fantasy, maybe it's like a dagger or a syringe if it's a thriller, and as always, if you have read any of the books on my list and you would like to tell me that you loved them or that you hated them, then please do that down in the comments below, because opinions live here. And if you have any recommendations for me based on what I've bought here or the books that you know that I love, please also give me those, because 2025 is an entirely new budget, my friends. If you would like to get your hands on a serious light from the Serious Readers Serious range, then use my code here on screen, Leanne24, and my link down below in the description. Remember, you can get £100 off, a not insignificant amount at the gifting time of year, and free UK delivery. If you are new to my channel and you want to know what I think about these books, then please hit that subscribe button down below, and if you are a returning subscriber who is desperately awaiting the results of my bingo board from this year, then please hit that thumbs up on your way out, because it really does help my channel, and I will speak to you all really soon. Bye! I don't know why I'm always so enthusiastic at the end of a video when now I need to go put these away. You wanna come help?